In this video, I'm going to show you my Mantis Blades build for Update 2.0 in Cyberpunk 2077. And before I get into this, you do not need Phantom Liberty expansion to use and create this build. Though if you do have Phantom Liberty, you can make this build way more overpowered. So to start off with, these are the skills that I have put into my character. We're going to start off up here with body. Now in body, I went for this main section of perks. Now to start off with, we'll go with Painkiller, unlock slow health regen in combat. For one of the supporting perks, I went with Comeback Kid, which is plus 1% health regenerate for each percent of missing health. Now another supporting perk is Speed Junkie, which is going to give us plus 60 health regen rate while sprinting, as well as Army of One, which is plus 10% health regen rate for each nearby enemy. Further up in the tree, I went with Adrenaline Rush. Now in this, I found this extremely helpful as it's going to give you a bunch more health. So in level 1, you get a plus 35 max health, and then for level 2, we get 20% health regen bonus to all health regen effects from all sources. On top of that, once you reach level 3, you do unlock Adrenaline Rush mode. Now on top of this, it does give you buffs for Blood Pump Cyberware, but we are not using any of that in this build. Now for the supporting perks, I went with Calm Mind, which is when Adrenaline Rush is active, we get a plus 3-second delay before the adrenaline begins to decay. Now the next supporting perk is going to be Juggernaut. When Adrenaline Rush is active, we get 20% movement speed and plus 10 damage. And on top of that, we went with Unstoppable Force. When Adrenaline Rush is active, gain immunity to movement penalties and non-damaging status effects such as knockdown, blinding, and etc. And of course, because body is level 20, we have unlocked the Pain to Gain perk. When Adrenaline Rush is active, we get a plus 20 health item recharge after neutralizing an enemy. Now next up on this is going to be Reflexes. Now because Mantis Blades do count as melee weapons as well as bladed weapons, I have fully went into the Slaughterhouse section of Reflexes, getting the finishers for Mantis Blades as well as the ability to deflect bullets. On top of that, I did unlock Dash and the ability to Air Dash, which these are great for movement. So to start off with the bottom, I went with Slippery. The faster you move, the more difficult for enemies to shoot you. Effects increase when dashing, dodging, sliding, sprinting, and vaulting. Now next up, I'm going to go with Dash, which will be minus 20 stamina cost for dodging and dashing. And then at level 2, unlocks the ability to dash. And on top of that, for the supporting perks, I went with Mean Streak, which is going to give us plus 40% stamina after neutralizing an enemy while dashing. And I went with Mad Dash for another supporting perk, which is going to be 100% dash range towards enemies. And I also went with Can't Touch This, which is going to be 100% mitigation chance when performing a dash. Now mitigation grants a chance to reduce incoming damage by current mitigation strength, which the default is 50. Next up, I went with Air Dash, which is going to be minus 20% dash stamina cost, and then at level 2 is plus 20% dash speed. Now on top of that, when we get it to level 3, it unlocks the ability to dash in midair. And with these supporting perks, I have Aerial Acrobat, which will just improve our midair maneuverability. On top of that, I went with Aerodynamic, which will be plus 30% mitigation strength while in the air. And then of course, we went with Tailwind, which is going to be plus 25% stamina from performing air dashes and double jumps. And air dashes do not cost stamina. And now for the blade section of Reflexes. Now for this perk here, Flash and Thunderclap. When performing strong attacks, you now automatically leap towards enemies within range. These leap attacks can also be performed from mid-air and deal additional damage that scales with the distance of the leap, max of 50%. Now this perk does have 2 supporting perks that are required to unlock it, which is Mad Dash, which I talked about earlier, as well as the Seeing Double, which is going to increase damage and stun chance with counter attacks. Now for the main blade perks here, one with Lead and Steel, which is going to be minus 15% stamina cost for attacks with blades, and at level 2 it's going to unlock the ability to block incoming projectiles with blades. but this does consume stamina. And then for the supporting perk, I went with Bullet Deflect. When your stamina is above 33%, blocking projectiles will deflect them to wherever your reticle is aimed. Well-timed blocking just before hit increases the damage you deal with deflected bullets. And then I went with Bullet Time. Whenever time is slowed, Bullet Deflect does not consume stamina, and deflections automatically hit enemies for crit damage. Now next up is going to be the finisher, which is Blade Runner. This is going to unlock the finisher for blades and mainly Mantis Blades. So to start off with level 1, you get minus 15% stamina cost for attacks with blades. Level 2, you're going to get 20% attack speed with blades, and at level 3 is when you're going to unlock the blade finisher. Now when you perform a finisher, it will restore 25% of your health. Now one of the supporting perks that I went with is Going the Distance, which is going to increase our finisher range by 100%. On top of that, I went with Flash of Steel, which is going to be 25% movement speed and attack speed for 6 seconds after performing a finisher. And the last supporting perk for the finisher is going to be Opportunist. Enemies affected by stagger, stun, blinding, and bleeding are more susceptible to finishers. And then the last perk for reflexes is going to be Slaughterhouse. All effects, counterattacks, and deflected bullets apply bleeding, which increases dismemberment chance. Bleeding cannot kill enemies, but does make them more susceptible to finishers, as well as we will get 25% stamina from dismemberments. And that is all the perks that I put into the reflex tree. And the last tree is going to be technical ability. So to start off with, I'm going to go down here, which is Glutton for War. 5% instant recharge of health items and grenades after neutralizing an enemy. And then the supporting perks that I went with is First Aid, which is going to be plus 15% recharge speed for health items when you've only used one charge. And on top of that, I went with Transfusion, which is going to be plus 30% health from the final charge of your health item. Now the next perk that I went with is Health Freak, which is going to be plus 8% recharge speed for health items and grenades, as well as at level 2, which will be plus 1 health item charge, which will increase your capacity for health items. On top of that, it will give you a 150% recharge speed for health items outside of combat. The supporting perks that I went with is Borrowed Time, which is a 100% instant recharge for a health item after neutralizing an enemy if you are below 25% health and have no charges remaining. And the next supporting perk is Field Medic, which is going to give us 15% faster use of health items while in combat. And then the next perk is Pyromania. As I said, this perk is mainly just so we can unlock Ticking Time Bomb, but it does still give us some stats. At level 1, it's going to be plus 8% recharge speed for health items and grenades. At level 2, it's going to give us plus 10 explosion radius for grenades and the projectile launch system. At level 3, we are going to get plus 5% movement speed and plus 10% explosion damage for 12 seconds after hitting an enemy with an explosion in combat. Now the perks that I went for here to unlock Edge Runner are going to be All Things Cyber, which is a required one to unlock Edge Runner, but it's going to give us plus 10% to all cyberware stat modifiers. And then for level 2, it is going to be minus 20% cyberware capacity cost for cyberware in the integumentary system and skeleton. Now the supporting perks for All Things Cyber that I went with is Chrome Constitution, which is going to be minus 5% incoming damage if all integumentary system and skeleton cyberware slots are filled, which they are for this build. And then I also went with Resonance Punk, which is going to give us plus 4 cyberware capacity for each attribute at 9 or higher. And then of course I went with Driver Update, which is going to give all cyberware an additional stat modifier. And then the next perk is License to Chrome, which is going to give us plus 10 to all cyberware stat modifiers, as well as plus 40 armor at level 2, and at level 3 we'll unlock a new cyberware slot for the skeleton, as well as giving all skeleton cyberware boosted stats. And the supporting perk that I went with is Extended Warranty, which is going to be plus 15% duration for all cyberware effects. And now for the main perks of technical ability. I went with Edge Runner, which will allow you to exceed your cyberware capacity by up to 50 points at the cost of 0.5% max health per point. On top of that, when you neutralize an enemy during combat, there is a 0.1% chance for each point you're over capacity that you will enter a Fury state. In the Fury state, you will gain plus 10 damage, plus 30 crit chance, as well as plus 50 crit damage for a duration of 12 seconds. The last perk you are going to want for this build is going to be Ticking Time Bomb. Now, Ticking Time Bomb charges a powerful EMP that hits nearby enemies after 3 seconds whenever you activate Operating System Cyberware, which will either be Berserk, Sandevistan, or Overclock mode. On top of that, applies stun and deals damage proportionate to the quantity and the tier of cyberware implants you have installed. On top of that, it will give us a minus 50% incoming damage while charging the EMP. And that is all the perks that you are going to need for this character build. Now, the cyberware that I went with this build has all been upgraded to tier 5++. For the operating system, I went with the Militech Apogee Sandevistan, as it is going to slow time by 85%, as well as increase a plus 15% headshot damage, a plus 15% crit chance, as well as a 15% crit damage. On top of that, neutralizing an enemy when the Sandevistan is active will give us a plus 20% extended duration, as well as plus 22% stamina. And of course, this is reflex attuned. For every attribute point we spend on reflex is going to give us 0.1 seconds of duration. Now, the next piece of cyberware that I went with for the frontal cortex is going to be Newton Module, and it is going to provide us with minus 1.35% cooldown instantly for all cyberware after neutralizing an enemy. And then for the arms, of course, it is going to be Mantis Blades, which these are the stats for the Mantis Blades. And then next up, we have Skeleton. For Skeleton, I went with Dense Marrow, and it is going to provide us with plus 27 melee damage, but is going to cost 15% more melee stamina for each attack. On top of that, I went with Scarab. Now, what this is going to provide us is going to be 130 armor, but is going to add a minus 20% to our movement speed. Now, the last cyberware for Skeleton is going to be Spring Joints. Now, this is going to give us a plus 19% mitigation strength. On top of that, for the nervous system, I went with Stabber. This is going to add a plus 20% crit chance with blades and throwable weapons. And for the integumentary system, I went with Shock and Awe. Whenever you take damage, you have a 10% chance to release a large electroshock that deals 500 damage to nearby enemies. Now, the next piece of cyberware is Proxy Shield. Now, this is going to provide us with the closer an enemy is, the less damage they deal to you, giving us a minus 20% incoming damage at 3 meters, and damage reduction does taper off to 0 at 6 meters. And the last integumentary system cyberware is going to be Carapace, which is going to give us a plus 32% armor, effectiveness when attacked from the side or the rear. And the second last category for cyberware is going to be legs. Now, for legs, I went with Reinforced Tendons, as I absolutely love double jump in this game, and especially when I pair it with any dash ability. And now for the last cyberware category, it is going to be Circulatory System. Now, for this, I went with Second Heart, which is going to give us plus 100% health when your health reaches 0. Now, the next piece of cyberware is going to be Biomonitor. This will automatically heal you with your equipped health item when your health drops below 35%. It is also going to give us a plus 15% health item effectiveness. On top of that, it is technical ability attuned, which is going to give us a total of 2% health item effectiveness on top of our 15% health item effectiveness, giving us a total of 17% health item effectiveness. That was a lot of effectiveness. And then the last piece of cyberware for this build that I have chose is going to be Micro Rotors. Now, this is going to provide us with a plus 25% melee attack speed. But that marks the end of my Mantis Blade build for Update 2.0 in Cyberpunk 2077. Now, for this build, of course, you do not need Phantom Liberty, and can become even more overpowered if you own Phantom Liberty and unlock relic perks that support Mantis Blades. If you enjoyed this Cyberpunk content and want to watch more, you can click on the video on the screen right now. And if you haven't already, be sure to tweak that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.